Thanks for joining us once again here at Chopping It Up for our 6th mini episode of Prime Cuts. This week we're covering episode 6, titled Book 6, Acts of the Apostles, of Season 1 of the 2021 Gothic supernatural horror miniseries Midnight Mass, directed by Mike Flanagan. A quick synopsis is as follows. A young man returns to his isolated hometown on Crockett Island, hoping to rebuild his life after serving 4 years in prison for killing someone in a drunk driving incident. He arrives at the same time as a mysterious, charismatic young priest who begins to revitalize the town's flagging faith. However, the community's divisions are soon exacerbated by the priest's deeds, while mysterious events befall the small town. As a reminder, Prime Cuts is designed as a quick-hitting, free-form conversation where we discuss a breadth of horror mediums, including anthologies, theatrical releases, graphic novels, shorts, and other forms of media. There is no set agenda here as we shoot from the hip and provide any gleaned insights from our respective viewings. All right, guys. First, has anyone seen this miniseries previously?
Yeah, I've seen it all end to end.
You've seen the whole thing.
Yeah.
And Sled, you hadn't? Did you?
I had not. And to clarify, it is a miniseries. This is the only season. It's not the first season, right? Like they're not making.
Correct. They're done.
Yeah. So, did you watch this episode or the whole thing?
I watched the whole thing.
Okay. All right. Well, what'd you guys think right off the top?
Well, I think I was the one who suggested this episode of it.
Yeah.
And I really like the series. I mean, I'm generally a pretty big fan of all the Mike Flanagan stuff. Like he has his quirks, which we can talk about, but in general, like I would say this is maybe his best or second best one, in my opinion, of all the stuff he's done for Netflix. Like the mood, is just like absolutely incredible.
Now he's the Haunting of Hill House, right? That's the only
Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor. He also did the recent, what was the recent one?
Fall of the House of Usher.
Fall of the House of Usher. And then he did the one that wasn't good, Midnight Club, which was the weak one. I couldn't get past the first episode of that one.
Okay.
But yeah, and I think this episode in particular of this miniseries is kind of like the culmination. It's like the big payoff of everything from the season.
Yeah, it's the penultimate one, but it's really where everything comes to a head. After that, everything is sort of resolution. Yeah, I liked it a lot. The mood, the tone, everything about how he directs me. It's really visceral. I was really into it, and like Gothic horror is not really my thing necessarily, but in a way, and I'm going to twist it. Everything twists to me to be siege horror now that like you've introduced that term, but it was kind of siege horror, right? They're all isolated on the island.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, at the very end, they definitely transition into basically full on siege horror, right? Like that becomes I don't know too many spoilers, but it's a major plot factor is that, they're stuck there. So
yeah. We can spoil away. That's what we do here. So, I mean, everyone dies, right? Except, the two kids. What's their names?
That's right.
I can't remember.
I forget their names now, but yeah.
But they're
Lisa and Warren.
And Warren, the younger brother, Riley's younger brother, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess, with the introduction of how things went with Pruitt, right? Father Pruitt turning out to be the same as, that, right? Like there was something about that reminded me of The Exorcist when we did the Exorcist episode. He's like visiting ancient ruins. He gets
very much. Yeah.
Right. And that sort of transforms him into this other thing. And now he thinks he has, he basically brings back evil with him. Right.
Yeah. And I mean, some of it is directly tied to the Dracula story. If you read like it's about you've got this vampire on a boat that's being transported across to England in that case, but in this it's coming over to here from there. But yeah, so that's similar. The vampire's appearance was very Nosferatu driven like style, similar also to Salem's Lot. Has that vampire has a similar appearance to that. The fact that was actually one of the things that I think bugged me the most about it, and I actually really liked it. So, but that the priest was so out of it that he brought this thing back, and I was like, oh, it was an angel, and it took him however long to be like, oh, it's a fucking vampire.
Do you want to? You know what's
Like,
crazy?
so obvious.
Sled. I read that. I swear to you, and I guess the ending proves me wrong, but I thought he knew it was evil all along.
Oh no, definitely not.
He really thought he thought he was helping people by doing that.
Yeah, he really thought that what happened to him, wherever it was, the Holy Land, that it was some act of like God, reaching out and doing something, and that he's basically. And it's interesting, like I think.
So at what point does he realize that that's not true? Because he's
basically like
not till the
very final episode.
But before the final episode, the hunger that he has, because he's transforming into this vampire, he's killing people and drinking their fucking blood.
Yeah, I mean,
so he's got to realize this was not this is a bad thing. But he continues.
Well, there's two aspects. One is he's got his enabler in Bev, right? Who's there to always feed him.
Who's fucking great too. I mean, she was the obvious character. Obvious actual villain pretty early on into the show.
And there was a time, again, I hate to always be like political with this. There was a time like pre-2016 before Trump and MAGA and all that were prominent. I was like, well, this isn't real. Like no one like that really exists. But I'm like, oh yeah, that's like, she's like absolutely someone who would, like they're out there all over.
Marjorie Taylor Greene or something.
Right, exactly.
But she's also just like the character from Stephen King's Mist. The lady in the supermarket who's this is the end of the world and it's a biblical thing and we have to sacrifice someone and all this kind of stuff. So I think she's that kind of character, like so miserable and unhappy in her own life that she's sort of her hatred is like the Bible and like religiosity is the vector for her hatred of the world. Well, and I think she's the enabler for all the delusions of the priest, right? Like there may be points where he might have like caught on to something, like from the beginning, like he viewed it as a miracle. He was there in the Holy Land to like kind of like, I don't know, re-experience or like reconnect with God as he approached the end of his life. And so like to him, it was all part of this like plan. And, maybe his brain didn't get unsenile, even though his body did. But she was clearly like the real enabler, all along. Right. Sorry, Slide, you were saying.
I was just saying, I mean, I think that goes along with him believing it's an angel to some extent. It's a commentary on the leaps that people will take to justify religious beliefs, right? There's all kinds of things that this is God's plan, or this is things that terrible things that happen that in theory an omnipotent, all-powerful God could stop and doesn't, and you justify it through, this is part of a plan, it's too big for you to understand. And so they're both. And the funny thing is he took the bigger leap. My impression of her character is she kind of always knew it was not good in the first place, but she was going to use it for her purposes.
Exactly. For her, it was
to exact
power.
Revenge on the people, and power and revenge over these people. And I guess I think it's also a commentary probably on, the concept, how if you reimagine this story of like an angel, where, Jesus, which is, kind of a zombie, there's like the people talk about as a zombie god that, you make people eat his flesh and drink his blood to get eternal life kind of thing. I mean, that's baked into the story. So I think it's an interesting spin for sure on a vampire. Could someone see something like this and be like, oh, it's an angel? I I don't think I would, but I'm also not a lifelong priest. So
well, I think also there's, I don't know. So I didn't rewatch the entire series for this Prime Cuts. I just rewatched episode 6. So I don't quite remember. Was there anything where like the island like failing, or basically like the community is dying.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The fishing. It's supposed to be a fishing village. Like this is the one time I have to drop this tidbit, which I've been. It's like the only meaning. It's not even meaningful. It's just a tidbit. Fishing village is dying, so their little local economy is not going to be sustainable for a long time. It's actually modeled after Jazz. We're a local Maryland area, so it's modeled after Tanger Island, which is in the Chesapeake Bay. So there's Smith Island on the Maryland side, and then on the Virginia side is Tanger Island. So it's modeled after that. Now the Flanagan, the guy that was, I think it's filmed in like Vancouver. No, it's not filmed in Vancouver. That can't be right. It's filmed up in like
Nova Scotia.
It's like the New England area, way up north on that side, but it's supposed to be modeled locally. But yeah, it's not. The local economy is dying. The people are depressed. They're not like everyone wants to get off the island unless you're like over 40.
Well, to me,
go ahead,
I was going to say, like, to me, that's part of what like perhaps feeds into the delusion that the priest has. It's like he comes back. Maybe part of his whole deal is he feels like he's somewhat failed the town or village in some capacity, and like here's part of like his redemption arc, and it just sort of like feeds into his delusion. Like he's very predisposed to believe like all this is happening for a reason, and he has to save the town and all that kind of stuff. And
with his literal blood.
With his literal blood, yeah.
But just like Sled said, that's all baked into the part of the dogma of religion, specifically like Christianity. It's like, yeah, you have to delude yourself into believing something. There's a bigger picture here. Otherwise, it's meaningless. Like, otherwise, you have to admit you were attacked by some demon, right? Yeah. And this bad thing happened to you. So, I think if he's not consciously aware that he's summoning a demon back to the island, then he's at least deluded himself. He's pushing that down into his subconscious. Like, I think he knows that he's not doing right the whole way through, but he doesn't want to let that through. But I that's me reading into the character.
I don't. I mean, so as far as the movie or the show has some what I'll call sixth sense intent, or in that kind of moment it's shooting for. Right? Did y'all see them coming, or were you legitimately surprised by any of them?
What?
I mean, the reveal stuff.
I'm
trying not to give too many.
Just like you can say the reveal stuff, which is that the young.
Well, is it the young priest? But also, I thought the one that was more cleverly hidden was that the one woman was his daughter, the doctor, right? That one didn't see that coming from as far away, but.
The doctor was his.
So the doctor
was his daughter with the senile woman
with Mildred. Yeah.
I didn't. I absolutely didn't see that.
I forget what I kind of saw the young priest was actually the old priest. They kind of telegraphed that one from what I remember from the initial viewing. I don't remember if I picked up on the doctor bit originally.
I don't think I did. I mean, I'm not gonna lie and be like, oh, I read it. No, I mean, I definitely. I thought that was a good turn. I mean, it made
so to that point though, like. This is really well acted. It's well written. It's well paced. It's well shot. It's well directed. This is a good miniseries. Absolutely recommend to anyone who's into that kind of thing to watch. It's not specifically my wheelhouse, but I don't know if I just watched it at the right time or whatever, but all the way through, loved it. Great stuff.
Yeah, it's really beautifully. I agree with all of that. Like the location, the sort of like production design is really amazing too. I think the acting for the most part is quite good. I think the two standouts in my mind are Hamish Linklater, who plays the priest. I think he has a couple episodes in particular where he's just like off the charts good. I forget which episode it was, but it's like they have like an evening service, and he basically like talks about like, yeah, we're gonna do great things, and his whole like sort of sermon that he does there was just like mesmerizing. As an actor, I thought he did great. Yeah. And the actress who played Bev, Samantha Sloyan, was also really, really excellent. I thought everyone else was like fine. Serviceable, but yeah.
I thought the guy who played Riley, I mean, he had some really good. His monologue about what death is and stuff, I thought was really good. I thought it was it seemed a little extreme that this former venture capitalist slash DWI guy has like all these intense ruminations and knowledge about, thoughts about life and death. But I
Prison
thought
will
he
do that
played
to
his
you.
part well.
Yeah.
I actually really liked the guy who played the sheriff, which I don't know if I could pronounce his name
Rahul
right.
Kohli. He's in
Kohli.
like all of the Flanagan things. Yeah. Actually, all of these people are in all of the Flanagan things at this
and
point.
I thought he did a really good
cast,
job. Yeah. And he brought a good level of gravitas, I guess I would say, to his position, which from some of the stuff I read, him talking about it, it was difficult for him because he is significantly younger than the character he's playing in the show, and he's also not Muslim in real life. And I don't know, his portrayal I thought was
and he's
was
British
really
in
good.
real life too.
Yeah, he's British. Yeah,
So what's the
which
element,
you could hear his accent a little bit at some parts, but yeah, I thought he did a good.
Why did we put, just to set him running contra to what everyone else's Judeo-Christian beliefs are? Like, why did we make the Muslim sheriff?
So this is like possibly one of my critiques of Flanagan. So there's two things. He almost has to find a part for his previous actors in all his new shows. That's kind of like his thing. Yeah. Like if you look at all of the shows, like Rahul Kohli's in all of them. His wife Kate Siegel, who played Erin in this one, is in all of them. Mm-hmm. This is the first one that Zach Gilford, the guy who played Riley, was in, but now he's in all of them since then, and so forth. And Carla Gugino, I think this is the one that she might not be in. She's been in everything else. And so like I think sometimes a few character things are forced. Like I don't think Kate Siegel, his wife who plays Erin, is particularly great actress, but she's his wife.
I thought she was good. She's serviceable.
Serviceable.
Yeah, she did okay. I mean, her best scene, I think, was on the boat when Riley disintegrated. I thought she did that part well, but.
And then the other sort of like very deference to actorliness that I think Mike Flanagan does, which I think is sometimes too much, is he has a real propensity to monologues, to like very long speeches by characters in small conversation, to the point where it just kind of stretches the belief a little bit too much for me at times.
Which is kind of what I was saying with Riley when he's talking about,
but it's not just Riley,
Well, I mean, that one stood out to me. Yeah,
everyone has a soliloquy.
The doctor has one, and these things. It's just like, this is not realistic that it would be like this, and it's too long. Like it just pulls me out of it a little bit, and it's a shame because I think if you truncated them by like 30-40%, it would be like so money. But I think they just get a little bit self-indulgent. But it's a pretty minor critique overall, I would say, considering how strong the rest of the show is.
Yeah, I mean, any person in real life who went on a monologue like that about anything would be completely fucking insufferable. You know what your personality would have to be like to go into a monologue like, so that I agree. I think that pulled, but overall, I really like the show.
So I have a question about Riley. So like one of the things I thought with everything, like, did he you sort of get the impression in some sense that he came back to this island to die. Like he was like very ready to like not continue his life. It felt like in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so like him sort of like laying it down the way he did is sort of like, I don't know, like maybe that's his redemption arc in some sense, but it just didn't seem like he really came back to the island to be like, oh, I'm going to start over and get my life on track, so much as it's an entombing, like I'm wrapping things up in some sense.
He was, my read on it was, so he comes back. He's locked up for 4 years for a drunk driving accident where he killed someone.
Mm-hmm.
So presumably for manslaughter, but
woman slaughter.
I think that changed him. And I think because he was a good person at his core, that like damaged him, and he didn't think he was worthy of anything. He felt like he was a piece of shit, and he came back to the island to sort of wallow. And then he runs into his ex girlfriend Erin, and then that gives him a purpose in the immediate, not the long term. And then when all this stuff starts to happen, he's like more than willing to give himself in service to a greater cause. But do
you think you could portray the way he went out as a coward's way out?
No. How he made sure that he wasn't going to hurt anyone, right?
I guess.
What was he supposed to do?
I don't know. He could
Fight.
have tried to help him and fight. I mean, his dad made a point of that, right? His dad is like, it doesn't have to be like this. After he got turned, wasn't he telling in their point in it where he's telling the woman, you know, you don't, you know, you feel the hunger, but you can resist it. I don't know if you. I think that was episode 7, not in 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the ending, the final episode.
But I don't know. I think there's some critique there that maybe he took the. I mean, it's not the easy way out. I mean, he did kill himself, but
I don't
yeah,
know.
I do think like he was looking for a way out. That's kind of like that. I agree with you, Sled, that was kind of the vibe I got of why he came back to the island and why he was so ready to be like, you know, here's my martyrdom, as it were.
Well, he was scared that he couldn't overcome it, right? So
right.
kinda,
Well,
that too.
Well, wait a second. This is not just because someone says fight it, you're going to be fine. If this were a zombie situation, and we're on the island, the three of us, and one of you gets bit, and we know that you get bit, you turn into a zombie. Are we going to be like, Sled, fucking fight it off, hang in there, bud? Maybe you could do something good. No, we're Sled, put a bullet in your head. We got to move on. You're a zombie now. It's a wrap. Am I wrong there?
Well, no, I think the deal was if he could actually fight the vampire, like the priest and the vampire.
What indication would we have that anyone could just simply will themselves past being infected with the vampire blood?
Well, why wouldn't he just go and kill? Why wouldn't he go and kill the? He could have gone and like tried to sneak up on the priest and kill him.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. There's things that he could have done besides what he did.
He could have done something before he decided to ruin this chick's fucking life by making her super depressed and feel miserable. But I don't know. I think
definitely immolating yourself in front of your.
I mean, I liked his. I liked his character. I'm just saying. I think there's a way. I think you could perceive it as like a continuation of making selfish choices.
Yeah. Or if you're going to expose yourself to the rising sun to explode or whatever, to burn up, like, why not do it take the ferry?
Yeah, where everyone could have seen it. He could have done it in the middle of fucking town and done this whole spiel to everybody and then blew up in the sun and they'd be like, holy fuck. And then they never would have had midnight mass because people would have been like, holy fuck, we got to get the fuck out of here.
Or hop on the ferry and go do it in like a real town, and like the news will be like, "Holy shit!" and the U.S. military will be. Anyway, my point is like it was a decision to keep it small, but yeah. So,
well, picking nits aside, top to bottom, it's something I really enjoyed. I thought,
I love the series. Yeah,
those. Sometimes things like this. Was it 7? It was 7 episodes, right? At about an hour each, I think. Sometimes you can get caught up when they try to overthink things, and a little bit like From that we talked about for the last Prime Cuts. It's sort of like, oh, now you're just doing a drama bit, and everything else is in the background. But that was never the case here. Everything was in service of drawing that arc that they wanted to tell. So
yeah, I mean, they kept it tight. The only parts that kind of maybe I missed something, but I felt like we're left hanging a bit was the visions he was having from the DW, like from the manslaughter thing. I feel like it was almost like a Lost thing where they never really tied up what was supposed to be the implications of that, like where he's seeing the woman and she's got the blue. I mean, obviously it's supposed to be like police lights or something. I don't know. It felt like they were maybe constructing something that they ended up leaving on the carving room floor.
I was about to say, I think there was, I think that there were things that were cut out that they decided in an effort to keep it concise, that they chopped that stuff out thinking it wasn't necessary. But other than that, even the secondary and ancillary characters were developed enough for me to take an interest. They all had a role to play and they did it well, especially like we said, Bev, she's just like the sneak villain of the whole deal. So do we think,
fantastic
as a question, do we think the demon, the vampire made it to, I mean, if this is modeled after the Chesapeake, you got probably by ferry, it's 90 minutes to Smith Island from the Eastern Shore.
I thought in the final episode they do show him burning up in the sky.
He's up in the kids are watching. There are only 2 who escaped the island if you don't count the demon. They're in the boat, the little rowboat, and they're looking and they see. If they don't say it out loud, I also didn't rewatch 7. I just rewatched the 6 for this. I think they audibly ponder if he's going to make it back to land. Right? He's dipping up and down. The sun is blotting him out, and there's fires and stuff, but he's still flying up and down. Like, does he make it to shore or not? If he does, what happens? So I don't know. But it was a good way to end. I actually, if I were greedy, even though we always talk, this is done well. Like, could do a second season. You could have done a second season with this if you wanted to.
Oh, I think it was perfect the way they kind of wrapped it up. And I do also think this is probably the best of the Flanagan miniseries.
Yeah. Well, House on Haunted Hill, I probably like that better, but
yeah, I don't know.
I haven't watched it.
Yeah, I kind of like this one better than Hill House, but yeah,
Hill House. That's what I meant. Yeah, no, you would like that, Sled. If you like the way this was done, although it's a totally different subject matter, but you very much you would like that as well.
Yeah,
I thought is that the one that's supposed to be influenced by Jacob's Ladder?
I'm not sure.
There
are a lot of hallucination things and stuff in it.
Yeah, but it was more. It's like a haunted house.
It is like a haunted house-ish, but there's a lot of hallucinations and stuff. But yeah, I don't know which one would be the Jacob's Ladder one. Because
Well, you're the Flanagan guy, so I'd defer to you on if there's some parallels.
Well, the ones I know are Bly Manor, Hill House, Midnight Club, this, and Usher. And I've seen them all, except I didn't finish Midnight Club just because it just wasn't very good. And yeah, none of them necessarily felt Jacob's Laddery to me, but the closest one would be Hill House. Yeah,
I just thought I remembered reading that was an influence. I don't know if it was the.
I could believe it. I mean, I could believe it. There's a lot of.
I haven't seen it, so it's enough. I can't comment at all.
Well, let's unless we have other stuff to add, I think we can keep it. We can wrap it up with this.
I have what?
Yeah, go ahead, Sled.
I was just going to say the one other thing that I thought was maybe not that great was some of the makeup they did on the people who started out old and then were supposed to become younger looking.
It was pretty good.
Was a little weak, but yeah. Otherwise, no, it was good.
Do we do machetes for these ones, or do we do in cleavers? I don't even remember.
I think this one was machetes and the other one was cleavers. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna go machete. Then I'm gonna go 4.5 machetes. This is about as good as you can do. Like we talked about, when you have horror as a subject, you can only take it so many episodes. It can't be like 4 seasons or whatever. You end up like Lost. So yeah, this was short and tight. I give it 4.5. What about you guys?
I'll give it 4. I think 4 for me is solid.
Yeah, I'll go 4.
All right, there you go. We recommend, everyone recommends, definitely watch it if that's your thing. We will see you next time on Prime Cuts.